Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. I suck at French accents, but anyway, welcome to the third podcast for the Windows 98 Dice podcast. I know that this is a very belated podcast, and I do have to apologize for this because it's been a long time since I've been working on this, and I've stopped here and there, and it's caused a lot of problems. A lot of things have also been really rough especially with scheduling and workload, but yeah. Before we begin with our episode, I would like to give a quick shout out to my channel members first, who are Deloven SL and Vista. They help me support my channel beyond just monetization, and they make things more possible for me. I know that we're still in the starting stages with membership, but I'm trying to see if we can get it to a good point where we can actually use the support to work on videos that might need me to pay for, let's say, a product. If you want to consider supporting me, you can always join for membership, and it only costs about a single dollar. You can pay more if you want, but that's also okay. Yeah. Also, I won't be covering any viewer questions and whatnot over this podcast because I have a lot to talk about. And I'll probably reconsider my podcast styles more, and I'll see what I can change from it because I'm not too satisfied with my approaches at the moment. And also, both my part 2 and 25th anniversary projects, they both share many of the same aspects that I'm going to talk about, so I won't be debriefing part 2 as, again, it already covers most of the stuff that I need to talk about in this podcast. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the podcast. Okay, I think it's appropriate where I start with my Windows 98's 25th anniversary project because that's where a lot of my trouble started. I have a lot to talk about this, so I'm going to be splitting this up into 4 sections. They will be about the original intents, what I planned out for the whole project, the ambitions and workloads, and lastly, my final thoughts on all of this. Okay, so let's start with the first thing, my original intentions. Before I made this project, I wasn't sure at all if I was gonna make this project. Why is that? Well, it's because I wasn't sure about how it was gonna end up. I originally planned to release part 1 on 11th of June that year, but I ended up changing my plans before announcing it. And since I had to do that, I thought I had way less time because I was planning to finish the anniversary video as just one video instead of the 3 parts I ended up finishing, and I was wondering if I should go for it or not. And while guessing what happened next, I had to delay it, and I didn't get to finish the video properly, and because I was in a big rush, I couldn't finish it within criteria. Finishing a video day before release? No. Publishing on YouTube and waiting for the premiere once the errors get fixed, if there are any? No. Condensing or adding more to the video to a good length? Kind of, but I didn't moderate it. After the prologue, I never really put enough breathing space for my projects and ended up premiering it right at the deadline. And I wasn't able to watch the video before uploading it, which is a really big problem for me. Now, you might ask me, what prompted me for these criterias? Well, here are several reasons. The first is that I just wanted to be punctual and be more aware of the workload. Before I restarted the series, I had to delay so many of the series parts, sometimes to the point where it became days or even weeks. I really didn't like this, and it was actually seriously daunting for me, so when I restarted the series again, I made that one of my top priorities. I think you all know that the results aren't all that polished even today, and I still ended up delaying a lot of my work to an extent, but that's still what I'm aiming for. Now, the second thing is that well, I just wanted to make my uploads more consistent. Back then my videos lacked any form of schedule, I just uploaded it because I wanted to, but now I'm just way too busy to even do that and it's also unreliable. So I decided to make a schedule and went with a weekend only one, because, well, I have to focus on my studies during the weekdays and part on the weekends. Now I did publish part 2 of my 25th anniversary project on a weekday, but it's mostly because it's at the worst case scenario and I had to delay that part by a day in the end. I thought that people would be more active during the weekends and I didn't want to bother people with more mainstream videos, so to speak, and missing out on the premiere, so yeah. These are just 2 of the reasons that I mentioned, but there's a lot more than that. This isn't really the main focus of what I'm talking about though. And speaking which, what exactly did I plan out for my 25th anniversary project? Well, my first plans included when I was gonna finish it and the amount of work that I was gonna put. Since I had to delay the whole project by a week, I thought that making just one animation wouldn't be feasible, so I decided to split it into 2 parts, and this also eventually became 3 after more complicated stuff happened. The idea of this was basically so that I don't misjudge the amount of work that I should do each day, as I had a really horrible time managing my time and just doing anything about it. But also because splitting it in 3 parts allows me to think about the storyline more as I progress through. Instead of just thinking it in one go, I would have more time to think about the whole storyline as I go. This also meant that I would work on the script after I finish each part, and I think this does have a benefit because I have a hard time getting ideas up on the get-go just with the script, and also since I wouldn't have enough time. But still, I'm skeptical if this is really the best idea today, but I just thought it would work better back then. I basically put the gap between each part to 1 week, since I didn't really want it to interfere with my vacation to Japan at that time. So I just set the full project's deadline by the end of June of 2023. The reason why is because my vacation was during July, and it was gonna take up the whole month. So I wasn't willing to take in the time to work on my project while I was on vacation. What I was trying to do was to finish each part in a week and keep it under 6 to 8 minutes, then premiere them separately, which later changed a bit, and also then the movie, which again changed a bit, but I'll explain this later. But what happened to those expectations that I just mentioned earlier? Well, unfortunately, yeah. Okay, at first, things were looking fine with the first part getting released relatively on time, aside from a few incidents. But as soon as I got to the second part, everything just started going crazy. Now, for some reason, the video that I wanted to make wasn't 6 to 8 minutes long, it was literally 20 minutes. Yes, 20 minutes. I mean, I'm glad on how it turned out, but still, ambitions like this and thinking that it's not feasible to go for a shorter route, thinking I have no time, maybe that might have not been the best choice. And one of the reasons why it took me 2 weeks to get this was because the animation had a really long pinball gameplay, so I wasn't stressing about it as much. But then, when talking about the third part, it is exactly what I didn't want that happened. One of the issues that I had about the second part was how I ended up finishing it very late into pre-vacation, which was early July 2023. It was right at the start of July, and I actually had no time to work on anything for part 3 until I went to Japan for vacation. After that, it took me about a week to finish the script and get things done and all, and I managed to start editing the video section by nearly the second half of July. Since I was already in the middle of my vacation, I couldn't work on the project as long as I needed it to be to get things to the standard, so I ended up working on it after I came back from vacation as well as before that, and I lost about a few days. This was a complete disaster because I had no idea how the project was gonna take me, so I decided to hold off any confirmations until very late into July. But even then, I ended up making a mistake by announcing the release date way earlier than I should have. This does happen a lot, though, especially to me, but it doesn't really mean that I can just inconclusively decide what the due date of this project would be. The idea of a due date is to set a time to finish it, and I failed to take note of how unexpected this project was. Other than the release date stuff, the part was also very ambitious. I ended up taking a very different approach to my storyline compared to the others. This was part of my initial plans, but I've never thought that it was gonna be this ambitious. And I ended up making a storyline that I've never done before in any of my animations, especially to such a broad extent. Now, I'm not saying that it's the best that I've ever created, but it's also because I do know and see that there are rooms for improvement, but still, it's nothing like the skill that I've ever done before, and doing it in such a short amount of time was very stressful. Of the last week of my vacation, I spent just a full week working non-stop on the project and hoped to finish it by the deadline, which was July 27th. Even though I wanted to do things that I would normally do when I'm on vacation, I couldn't. and it was just really unhealthy and taking a toll on me. Taking in all of the hard work, I don't really feel like this is the best way to work on a project. And as you may know, I did not end up finishing the project on time and delayed it many times from technical, strategic, and just a lot of other problems. I stayed up very late to premiere the whole movie and watched it together since I was so desperate about all of this. Okay, so what are my thoughts on all of this? And what do I have to say about it? Well, all the desperation and difficulties were definitely something that I felt during the project, and I felt like it should have been mitigated and could have been mitigated if I had the right calls for the project, but I just ended up choosing overambitious things. I know that all of this is still important though, because it really comes to the conclusion that we just have to learn from stuff like this. Because difficulties are gonna be still something that will happen occasionally even if you have things out planned accordingly. And yeah, I just think that it's the matter of learning from it. Being a content creator who makes and edits videos only by myself, it's always been a challenge for me to manage time wisely and get all of the things done within the time I have, and I still struggle with it very often. And it can be painful seeing many works being delayed and not going to expectations, but it's still important because it's just a matter of trying again and again and again and learning from the tries I've done. Persevering and getting all the work done, even if it is late, is still better than never actually finishing it. It's also important to note that limiting is one of these factors, because you can persevere and work hard, sure, but you also need to find a boundary that works for you that can be retained. And at the same time, you have to challenge yourself to a manageable extent. I personally think that things like this can improve over time as I find more strategies to use, and I can also learn other stuff, and I think that managing stuff like this will also improve over time. But just because I get this kind of boundary, as a human being, doesn't really mean that I can just extend it or set it low, take it into advantage, or just justifying the no need to work on projects or whatever case it may be. Because moderation is true, but it isn't something that's all wise in this case. I know hard work and a hard limit is true though, because I've seen just how difficult it is to edit quality content and all of it, as just one individual. So no matter how much time I might not have from being occupied from other things, there's still no reason for me to just quit making this series or stop working hard on it. This also applies the same with all of my other contents. I believe that there's more than just hard work, and I also believe that there's also fun in making all of this. And just because of something like, well, delays, doesn't necessarily mean that it's over and all of that. So, yeah. And I just want to say, thank you guys for supporting me throughout this time. I know it's been difficult, but yeah. And I'm gonna be wrapping this up now. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys learned something. I also hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.